blessings upon this session. We pray for every supervisor. We pray, oh God, that you will give them the wisdom and understanding to lead this county as you will have it to be led. We pray, God, for the citizens of this county and even this entire state and nation. We pray, God, for every family that is represented in this room right now. We pray, oh God, for the sheriff and all of his law enforcement officers. Keep them safe and sound in your loving care. For us in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Supervisor Martin, she will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First off, I want to recognize Ms. Judith Speaker to present 3 new laws regarding decreasing violent crime. She here? Ms. Judith? Ms. Judith? Okay. I recognize Mr. Woody Bailey to discuss cruising the coast.
Morning, everyone. Good to see y'all. We handed out to you our economic impact study that you have there, and also our newsletter that we just sent out in July. Last year was our, I'll just go over some of the highlights. Last year was our 25th anniversary of Cruising the Coast. Was a great year, record turnout, almost 9,500 vehicles that were registered for the event, at 45 states and Canada represented at the event last year. So it was a tremendous turnout. We had a lot of things going for us. The COVID situation, everybody wanting to get out and do something, and they did at Cruising, and the weather was tremendous. And then I think the 25th anniversary, people wanted to come to this event. So we had a record number of participants, record number of spectators there, and we did this economic impact study. So it was pretty significant in the fact that we do it every 5 years. And just to give y'all some highlights, in 2016, the last year that we did it, the economic impact was 28.6 million. This year, 5 years later, was 36.1 million. Greg Bradley with the Bradley Research Group did the study for us, and then for the 3 coast counties, it was 26 million, and now it's 33.1 million. So that's roughly about a 27% increase over the last 5 years. So Cruising is really doing its job. We started this event to help the economy at a slow time of the year back in '96, and we had 374 cars. Like I said, we had almost 9,500 cars last year. So it was pretty amazing. Just some highlights from the study. We're still average about 6 nights per individual staying at the event. I don't know of any other events that keep people here on the Gulf Coast enjoying what we have and spending money as well. We look at the study is broken down between participants and spectators. So the median age is around 60. The median age of the spectators is around 51. Income levels around 80,000 for the participants, and the spectators is around 65,000. What's really neat is the overall expectations and the likeliness to return and recommend this event is around 97%. So people like coming to the Gulf Coast, they like coming to Cruising the Coast, and this study shows that, and we're real happy, like I say, that Cruising is doing its job. The other thing that it pointed out with the state, all tax revenues, when you consider everything together, it's almost 2.5 million.
1799 to Restoration Circle.
And as far as the Gulf Coast is 2,380,000. So it's producing not only room nights, people spending money in the restaurants and lodging facilities. Like I say, it's really doing its job, and we're real pleased with that. This year, things are looking well too. While we're just a little bit behind registration-wise, we're still at about coming up on about 6,500 pre-registered vehicles, and that's 42 states, Canada, and this year we have someone from England that's going to be showing up. So COVID has kept a lot of our foreign folks from coming to the event. So this year, it's like I say, our first time with someone from England. We've been working with Greg at the fairgrounds with RV spaces and trailer storage during the event, and that's working out real well as I understand it. And he's got a lot of reservations coming up for this year. So y'all been very supportive, and we appreciate y'all's support over the years for cruising. And we're here today again for ask for your continued support, and we'll look forward to that. And if I can answer any questions, I'd like to say if you hadn't had a chance to look at the study, but you probably haven't, I'll just give you some highlights. But if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to do so.
I just like to say, May, that y'all do a fantastic job. I mean, the traffic, everything flows. There's no ever, any trouble. So, God bless you, did a great job. When are you gonna bring back Smoking the Sound?
No, that's a tough one right now. I'm still working on that. We've got some actual issues in the channel area. There's been a lot of fish havens and things put out there. The depth requirements for some of the sanctioning bodies are a lot deeper now, and our water is just not as deep as we'd like for it to be. They used to require around 6 feet. Now they're talking about 10 and 12 feet. So that's an issue, and we had, to me, one of the best race courses, and really compared with Key West. It was really up close and personal to see those races, and I'd love to bring them back. Still working on it, but I don't have anything to report on that just yet.
Well, thank you. This is wonderful.
Thank
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
We
thank y'all
have
very
a
much.
request from cruising, it's under 51E. Do we want to do that now or wait till?
Bring it up.
15,000 for advertising county resources. 15,000 advertising county resources, so I'll make that motion.
Second?
Okay, is there any further discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much.
Keep up
Appreciate
the
it.
good work.
Also, I need to go back. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I need to go back to number one. I overlooked number one. I'm looking at 9:30, but my head is saying 10:30, because we have a zoning hearing. So I want to go back to number one, which is a hearing to receive public comment on redistricting for Harrison County.
All right, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. If you were at the meeting last week in Gulfport, you have a quick rerun today. We are gonna go back over what we did as far as the process and the results for Harrison County's redistricting plan. And sorry, that's a little wrinkle. It's been in the back of my truck for a week, and I forgot. So, of course, the U.S. Census was conducted in April of 2020, as it is every 10 years, every decade. We got the figures late fall. By December, we definitely had the final numbers. Board of Supervisors contracted with us, and we contracted also with Gulf Regional Planning Commission to go through this whole process and have work sessions with the supervisors looking at drawing the new lines. So it was a responsibility of us to kind of coordinate things. It was a responsibility of Ken Holland with Gulf Regional Planning Commission, you'll hear from him in a minute, to do the actual map drawing. And then, of course, Tim, right there on the cue, Tim Holloman and Tricia Tisdale with the Holloman firm helped us out, make sure that everything we're doing is following the state and federal laws as we go along. And also the final product, Will and Jackie with engineering and some others have been helping out on writing the draft of the legal descriptions. So the purpose of the redistricting is really to make sure that we have the one man, one vote doctrine in place for the Equal Protection Clause of 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. We said when we started this process with the supervisors that we would follow any state, any federal laws, US Constitution, Mississippi Constitution, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 as amended. The idea, and Ken will get into this a little bit deeper, is that we not have a more than a 10% total deviation in population per the 5 districts. And then to do that, we kind of have a rule of not more than 5%, give or take, maybe plus or minus really 5% in any particular district. The districts that grew here were 5 grew, is that right? 4 grew, 5 grew, 4 lost. Okay, so we'll go into that in just a few minutes. 2, sorry, I shouldn't have said the numbers, I knew it. We also wanted to make sure that we separated incumbents into their individual districts. And the plan would be really to maintain the core retention as best we could. And that really is just to avoid any kind of voter confusion on the next election. And the plan would maintain the existing majority-minority district, which it does, and the plan would follow any natural geographic boundaries in drawing new district lines. So we presented the benchmarks several months ago here at the Board of Supervisors meeting, but also with the supervisors separately. We had a day of rolling work sessions where they came in one by one. Legal counsel was present, we were present, and Ken Holland did the map drawing, and he'll tell you a little bit about that, where we started out, which we call benchmark, and then how we got to this. Ken?
Hey there, Ken Holland, Gulf Regional Planning Commission. In Harrison County, we have 208,000 people, and the process is to take that population, and it is an overall head count. It is not a registered voter, it is total population for your county. You take that number and divide by 5, and that number gives you the ideal district size that you would set up for each supervisor's district, and that number comes out to be 41,724. The deviations that Allison mentioned is you're not supposed to, you're supposed to be plus or minus 10, so there's no one district that has more than 10% population or less population than another. And in doing that, the rule of thumb is to keep it at 5% per district. So in doing that, in the benchmark, our overall range, you take the highest and the lowest, and you get the spread between those two, and it sets up an overall deviation. That overall deviation in the benchmark was 20.15%. You had a lower, District 4 had a population loss, or a population, not necessarily a loss, but when the population for the county was determined, their district was 5,064 people below that perfect number of 41,724. And in District 2, you had, their population was 3,343 people above the ideal number. So basically, you want to try to balance those as best you can and maintain the methodology that Allison mentioned. So in doing that, the benchmark again, we were at 20.15%. Luckily, in this plan, we only had to change 2 areas because 2 and 4 border each other. So we looked all around those areas and found the best places to give back some population into 4 from 2. And we ended up doing it a small spot down in the downtown area, one around the Gulfport Courthouse, and one in the Broadmoor, just to the east of the Broadmoor area. The second 2 spots that we made changes in were off of O'Neill and 3 Rivers Road. There was a group of, and you can see them here closely up here. This is where 4 ended. This pink is 2, so we grabbed in some subdivisions north of O'Neill and just to the west of 3 Rivers Road. In doing that, the balancing there, the U.S. Census Bureau provides census blocks. Those are like puzzle pieces that they aggregate. That's the lowest level of physical geography that they aggregate population data in. So what you have to do is, we agreed when we started this, is we would try our best not to have to split any census blocks. So in aggregating those puzzle pieces, we would grab all the population of that census block to make sure that we could then calculate the complexity of the age and the race factors for each census block. So in doing that, that's why we chose the geographies that we chose. We were bound by that census block that the U.S. Census Bureau puts out for us. So when we did this draft plan that you're looking at, we got our relative overall range down to 6.25%. We didn't have to do anything in 1, 3, or 5, but in 2, we were actually able to get that population, one person from perfect, which is a total population of 41,723. And we were able to get District 4 down to up to 40,004 people. We added about 3,600 people back into your district, as you know, Supervisor Jones. But that is the information we're here to present. We've been through this at that last public hearing opportunity, and we've been through it with the supervisors. And again, this is a draft at this point, but we're just sharing our information.
And we will have another public hearing on August, one more and final, August 16th. Is it Isaiah Fredericks?
No.
No.
It's at the government courthouse.
It is? Okay.
Did you mention, and I apologize sometimes, did you mention that there can be no gerrymandering and that the census blocks have to be contiguous?
That is correct. They are contiguous, that you can't have islands, you can't create islands. And that sometimes can be challenging because you do have choke points that come together when you grab them because of the geography, the physical geography of the boundaries, but you cannot create islands, and we were able to maintain that.
And the census block is how the census reports everything, all the more detailed data. So we wouldn't be able to get down to that level of data if you split a census block. So you can keep all the census blocks.
In the urban area, census blocks literally are almost like city blocks. Just think of these little small squares that you piece together. And again, aggregate population, so one square might be 100 people, the next square might be 150 people, so you just start adding those together. In the rural areas, the census blocks can become quite large, and particularly when they follow water boundaries, they get sometimes squirrely looking, and people say, what is that following? But they try to follow rivers and streams and roads. Occasionally, they'll follow municipal boundaries or other Senate or state boundaries that have just been sent to the Census Bureau that they know that that's a legal boundary. So that's the kind of the playing field we were working on, but the Census Bureau, it's done that way because that bureau has this geography nationwide, and that's how they count their population from that report.
And you also take into consideration splitting precincts. You don't, but
Right.
a lot of other people
The
do.
next step would be obviously to get with the circuit clerk's office and make sure that our precincts are intact. Again, with the minimal changes that we made, I think we're gonna be in a good spot with precincts. We're not really, again, to get that information out. This map won't come into play until January of '23. So we gotta get with circuit, and we still have to get with our justice court constable, take care of that one, which would be next.
Right.
And I think we're below the threshold from having, because we have two judicial.
Two.
That's right. I think we're below the threshold, but, right, of having multiple, past two.
Right. So Ken kind of just told you what the next step is, and that's to make sure the precincts are all in order, get all the information to Connie Ladner, and make sure everyone knows where to vote. They'll send out information probably after the first of the year, once all of that gets in the records updated, so that people know where they're supposed to vote, where the polling place is. And then, of course, there's some legal things, order has to be published, that sort of things, a little 3-week waiting period, 3 times if the order is published. But all that will start happening after our August 16th meeting, assuming we don't have any or many changes. So I think that's it, Mr. Jones.
Okay.
Unless anybody has any questions, it's a public meeting.
Does anybody have any comments? That's the purpose of this hearing. Does anybody have any received comments from the public regarding redistricting? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure it's been on the record. Okay, no comments for the record.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
thank you.
Both of you. Next, we're gonna have Ms. Mona Roche, Executive Director, to give an annual report of Pine Developmental Healthcare Resources. And while she's coming up, I just want to recognize Representative Tanya, Chief Administrative Officer of the City of Gulfport. I'd like to welcome you as well. If there's any comments you might want to chime in, you'll be more than welcome to let us go.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Thank you for having us this morning. I would also like to introduce Mr. Don Steinman, who is our CFO, and Alex Geary, who is our Director of County Operations for Pine Belt Mental Health Care Resources for this area. Also wanted to thank Sheriff Peterson, who was our board member up until recently, and also welcome Mr. Pena in the future. We're excited to have, appreciative of Sheriff, and also excited to have Mr. Pena join us as well. Every year I go to each of the Board of Supervisors for each of the counties that are part of the Pine Belt Mental Health Care Resources catchment area and give an annual report, and that's what I'd like to do this morning. As you know, November of 2020, your board presented to our board a request to join our catchment area, and that happened on February 1st of 2021. It was about roughly, I guess, 18 months ago. At this time, then, Pine Belt has roughly overall 680 staff and 13 counties, with the 3 counties on the coast. We have 126 employees just for Harrison County. Right now, we have 34 vacancies, and they range from housekeeper to RNs. 7 of those are new positions with new grants that we've written. 5 of those are PRN positions that are always going to be on there because we're always filling in positions there. We've to date trained 89 CIT officers in Harrison County, which is a key area for this county and for our agency as well. As I'm sure the sheriff can talk about as well, this is to help train law enforcement on how to recognize mental health issues as opposed to purely law enforcement issues, and to be able to work with those and help to divert those cases from the jails and from other places as needed. We also, from February 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, have done 739 pre-evaluation assessments for commitments. 613 of those were for Harrison County, so those were on the coast alone. We do these pre-evaluations wherever the person's at. We go to the ERs, we go to the VA, we go to the private facilities, we go where we're needed to do those, and we've continued to do that, and we'll continue to do that. We have roughly, again, 11 positions at our CSU that are open. As you all know, we have had to scale back to 12 beds for a while because of COVID and because of staffing shortages. We have 2 positions left to get. One is on a night shift, one is on an evening shift before we can go back to having the minimum staff for 16. We're hoping to have that happen soon. We've recently hired a new RN coordinator. It's their 2nd week there, and she's hitting the ground running, and we're really hopeful with that as well. January and June hit us hard with COVID. June, we had 8 people out at one time of just the CSU with COVID. Because we have 13 counties, we pulled an RN, and we pulled other staff from other counties to keep CSU going at the capacity we could at that point. Otherwise, we would have had to close down the facility while people got over COVID, and that just wasn't an option. Let's see. We also kept in contact with you guys about what we're doing along the way. Every day, Monday through Friday, Chancery and others get an email saying what our census is for the day, what the cap is, and when we're going to be able to move up from there. Looking at some of these individuals who have had involuntary commitments, data that we had gotten from Mr. McAdams and from the group, and then our data for 2021 and 2022, there were lots of people who had just multiple involuntary commitments. And that was one of the early goals that we made, was to help decrease that each person would not have as many involuntary commitments. So we've tracked 48 of those individuals. They have had some intervention with our agency since we've taken over. 32 of those are still in services with us. And I just want to give y'all a little bit of data on those 32, because sometimes it may seem like things are not happening, but hopefully this data lets you know that it is. These 32 individuals together in 2019, according to our information, had a total of 163 involuntary commitments. In 2020, they had a total of 182. In 2021, these 32 individuals had a total of 15 involuntary commitments for the year. And so far in 2022, these 32 individuals have had 10. So we're going from 182 in 2020 to 10 so far in 2022.
Ms. Muller, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the fact that these small amounts of people are having most of the intervention, what is causing that? Is the intervention itself, the therapy not working, or what causes so many, a small group of people having to be committed so
Well,
many times?
It's not just one answer,
yeah.
and this is a small group of the total that was there before we ever came on board. But I can tell you that individuals, these individuals, 17 of which have had to have no involuntary hospitalization since they came on board in 2021. They've been in our PAC teams, they've been in our CCE teams. INSERT has served them. Our peer bridger has worked with one in particular, and that person has really, they have joined together. It's those relationships, it's that continued monitoring. All of these are seeing our physicians, so the psychiatric medications, that's a part of it as well. 12 of those are in outpatient. We've had a couple that have gone into our Crossroads Recovery Center and then an outpatient. We have one that goes to our psychosocial rehab. That's a service 5 hours a day, 5 days a week that individuals with serious mental illness can come to. And they can have those connections, and our therapists can keep an eye on them, and we can give them those interventions. So a lot of it is about continuing to make those connections with them, being able to keep an eye on them before something disintegrates a little too much. And again, when you guys joined our catchment area, that was, excuse me, our big goal was develop these outpatient services that are less restrictive, that we can divert these individuals into so they don't need involuntary commitment and they don't need, hopefully, hospitalization, or at least they don't need it as much. There's always going to be a need for some hospitalization. However, these are individuals who had 10, 15, however many in a year. So again, this may be a small number, but to these individuals, especially these 17 who have not had to go back into the hospital, I'm guessing it's a big deal for them.
It is
So-
to their family, I can tell you that, but I
Yes.
have another question. So you got twice as many employees in Forest County than you have in Harrison, but you did not service twice as many people. So how come you can't take some of those people and bring them down here?
The employees, you mean? Because they live in Hattiesburg and other areas, and it's an hour and a half to more to drive to come
Because, you
here.
know, we're paying for 16 beds at that CSU, and we've only had 12, and it's creating issues for the county, because we're basically kind of double paying, Mona, just so you know, because we're still funding the CSU and other mental health services at the level that we've always funded them. But now we're having to utilize some private hospitals to take some of these people because we're not at capacity at CSU. So I'm just curious why, if you could shift some people. maybe
Because
down
these were
here.
individuals who, at 6:30, shift starts at 7 and there's no one there, or 5:30 and there's no one there to work the shift. So they're willing to come in on a long-term basis. If they're willing to drive and come to there, we'll put them in that
Maybe ask
position.
them, because that might be
Well, believe me, we
a
have.
temporary solution.
We have. But I also want to address part of that in terms of your contributions to Pine Belt is greatly, greatly appreciated. It's $2,146,140 a year. And that was based
Not
on,
counting what we're spending on the.
not counting what you're spending wherever, but
or
also
on the
many of
maintenance
those
the
have,
Buildings or all, not counting any of that.
the buildings, yes. And we pay a lot of the maintenance and we do a lot of that as well. But you're right, you do. And many of the individuals that go to the privates have payer sources. So
Some don't.
some don't, you're absolutely right. But just to also let you know, that 2.146 million covers 18.94% of the cost of doing the mental health services in Harrison County. Our budget for Harrison County annually is $11,330,000.
So when you come before us again for your budget process, I'll have what the remaining, you're saying 18%. I'm thinking it's more like 30 based on the other cost to us, but I understand you don't have any way of knowing that, but I'll share that with you when you come back. So
Okay,
I'm in the process of gathering it.
okay. And again, that was based on what you guys were paying the mental health center before us.
Right.
We went with that.
Well, we
It
always-
covers personnel, it covers travel, rental, because we still have to do equipment, things like that. Maintenance, other contractual. You guys have, the positions here include nurse practitioners. There are, I believe, 8 of them, 6 are full-time, if I can remember that correctly. So the staffing that we do have here are higher paid, and they're also the needed staff to be able to run the different facilities that we've got.
Excuse me, can I ask? What about grants though? We provide, I think, more, I don't know what Jones County provides to you, but Jones County has a population of 68,000 people. They're being served at 2,544. We have a population of 210,000 and only 2,555 of our people are being served. It seems like there's a huge discrepancy there. I just one, and also the amount of grants that you receive from the Mental Health Association should cover anything that we are not able to cover, I would think.
And it doesn't. However, let me remind you, that report that you have is FY21, so that goes from October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021. You guys joined us February 1st of 2020, so there are fewer months for Harrison County than there are for Jones County. Jones County has also been established for over 20, 30 years. Harrison County just started out, so we're building services. The grant money that we get from the state is roughly, I believe, about 3.6 million. That does help to cover the CSU, that helps to cover CCE, that helps to cover some insert services, PAC teams, things like that. But we have to also have other payer sources such as Medicaid, private pay, private insurance. So grants and what the county gives in may cover roughly half of what it costs to run the
Would
county.
expanding Medicaid help you?
Yes, it definitely would. There's also, we're learning too in this last year what the Medicaid population is in this particular county, because it's got a mixture of Medicaid, self-pay, private insurance, all of those, so yes. But that would definitely help.
Even if it expanded it for only mental health from 18 to 64.
Yes,
Correct.
that would. We're also rebuilding our PSR program, so part of what you're seeing in there, people served across the other counties, is the adult SMI, serious mentally ill population that comes daily for psychosocial rehab. We have a program here. COVID has kind of knocked out some of that, so we're rebuilding that to get more people coming and coming more hours as well. We also in Harrison County have a population of individuals with developmental disabilities. And I know that you've had a couple of people that have dropped by there to kind of see what they're doing there and how they're doing. And those individuals, we're growing that program as well. Those come off of a Medicaid waiver, and they also do day programs there as well. So that was FY21. FY22 so far, from October 1, 21 until June 30th, we actually served 2,443. So we're online to pick up around that same amount for this year as well. 275 of those individuals were in our chemical dependency services. 1,581 were in general adult outpatient, MSER, PAC team services. 576 of those individuals were children and youth. 62 had intellectual and developmental disabilities. And out of all of those, 1,301 were served by medical providers, psychiatric medical providers. And again, we have 8 nurse practitioners for this county. That's more than we have in any other county. 2 of those are part-time, 6 of those are full-time. So that service does a lot for the population that's the most vulnerable, but that is also the most at risk to need hospitalizations. So if we can help to get them in to see the medical professionals, either get them on their injections or make sure they're taking their medications, you combine that with our PAC teams, our community support services, all those other pieces. You, Ms. Lardner, you asked earlier what works. It's a little bit of all of these things put together so that you can help that person in the different facets of their lives.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but as Mr. Marlin says, we kind of ask questions come up. Instead of expanding the growth, you're saying expanding other programs. We have a terrible issue with leaving patients that are mentally ill in the hospitals for long, extended periods of time in the emergency room, and they're not equipped to handle that situation. Would it not be better, instead of expanding other, and I know it's a puzzle and you have to work that puzzle, but shouldn't we try to concentrate on the most vulnerable and the people where we're having issues, where the biggest issue right now that we hear about is the fact that we're not getting anybody in CSU. They're in hospitals for days in an emergency room with no care specifically. So can we are sending as many as we can to the private hospitals, but we have beds that are not being used in CSU. And we need that taken care of maybe before we need to expand other services.
These are those same individuals, and we need to also do those at the same time so they don't have to go back to the hospital, which gives you beds for more. I'm going to put her on the spot, but I think Alex can probably answer some of your questions about getting people being in the ERs or being in the other hospitals and how we work to get them in the CSU as soon as we can.
We're aware of how that works.
Okay.
Trust me. Our question is, what is taking so long to hire the necessary staff to gear that thing back up to the 16 beds? We know somebody that told us they applied for a job and never got a call back. I can't think of her name. I wish Supervisor Powers was here, but.
Well, if you'll
Yeah,
give me
that's
that
the
name
kind.
later, we'll
Are
follow
y'all
up on it.
Where are you advertising that you need help?
We are going on Indeed. We have a new HR director, so we're also doing Facebook posts. We're also doing LinkedIn. We're also going to the colleges, speaking to them to
So
try
you're
to
not
recruit
just
in the
limiting
future.
it to your website.
I'm sorry, what?
You're not only limiting.
Oh,
to
no,
your website.
no, not at all. We are going face to face to the colleges, to people who come work for us. They are referring people. I mean, again, I would imagine it's kind of the same as law enforcement, EMTs, schools, all those it's a workforce shortage. However, the other thing that we have going on, and I don't know if y'all see that at all, is we have people hired. They stay for 2 weeks and say, oh, guess what? I'm moving to Nashville. I told you I'm leaving today. There's a different population out there that gets hired. We train them for 2 weeks, and it's not just a specific, it's not the same person that can work at Burger King that works in these positions. So we're
Well, they make
continuing
more
to do
Burger
that.
King.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have met.
I've worked at Burger King before
They
myself,
make
believe
good
me.
money.
One other question, out of the $11 million that we supply, how much of that goes to CSU? Operations.
For CSU,
$11 million.
about $2,280,000 is expected before the end of this fiscal year. It's actually a little bit more than that, and we're actually expected to end in a loss at CSU this year.
2 million, how much?
$2,280,267 is the annualized, it's unaudited, it's our working budget at this time.
That, and how much of that is county money?
Your county money is the 2.146, and it goes for the entire county, not just for the CSU. Don, would you like to speak to that at all?
Well, yeah, whenever you all ask us to.
Want to come on up, if you don't mind,
Uh,
state the name for us?
When you all requested to join our
State your
catchment,
name.
my name is Don Steinley, I'm the CFO at Pine Belt Mental Health Care Resources. When you requested to join our catchment area, it was said that you have a certain amount that you all have in a budget area for coming from Chancery, and then the rest of it is from general funds. At that point in time, we talked about the fact that that's not how we allocate those funds. It was understood that we allocate all 2.145 million of that to provide services throughout the entire county. So out of the $11 million, 2.1 of that is coming from the county to cover those expenses. There's not a designated specific amount of your 2.145 that goes to the CSU, but it covers all of the mental health services. The rest of that we provide through our other revenue sources.
I did have that right, correct? Because it seems like it's
Yes.
much more than that.
I think you can see our concern and question that we have. I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, we're knocking on the door of about $100,000 right now for our private hospital costs that we're having to assume in the county.
Well,
So,
yeah, and it's for committed patients. When
Right.
they get through the hearing and they're committed, and we can't place the local CSU for community mental health services. We have to, the county has an obligation for treatment of a sick patient. So the indigent patients are being sent to the private facilities.
and that's the cost that I'm talking about. We're gonna be,
Yeah, right, no,
it's about 90,000 right now, if I'm
right.
correct.
Mr. President, may I ask a question? How much does it cost to operate Jones County CSU?
$2.6 million.
2.6 million?
And they have a population of 68,000, and we have a population of 208,000.
Yes, there's also a grant that is 1.4 million, as well as another $400,000, where your grant that comes from the state is $1.1 million.
And also, the CSUs are meant to serve every county in the state.
Right.
It's not just, like, it comes here and it's Harrison County or Hancock County.
But
We
they should use population, because you get more population you have, the more issues you're gonna have with people that need
makes
assistance, right?
Perfect sense to me, yes.
So it's hard for me to swallow that
Yes.
they get 2.5 million or whatever, over 2 million, and we get less than 2 million, we get a 1 point.
That
whatever.
is not a point that has not been risen with. It
Mr.
makes
President,
perfect
one
sense
more-
what you're saying.
Okay.
Uh,
Did you know that?
I'm not gonna ask.
Please ask.
I'll ask her later.
Yeah, we'll have another opportunity during budget hearings.
Okay.
Is that it? Okay, thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution, sir.
I'm sorry, Mona, what I was gonna ask, of that 11 million, how much of the administrative cost from Hattiesburg Falls is divided amongst the counties?
It's not, it's allocated to that particular county.
In
So
other
your
words-
11 million is in your county, and your administrative or indirect costs is about $1 million, a little over $1 million just for Harrison County.
What I'm saying is, your main operation in Forest County, your main office, is that spread out amongst the 13 counties
It
for
is.
operation?
Yes, but it is spread out as much as that time for that person in administrative is needed in those counties.
So your salary is spread out,
Yes,
Don's,
Correct.
everybody's salary is spread out, but actual operation, like what are you spending just my idea, my question. What are you spending for mental health services, excluding all the administrative costs? That's the key to me.
10 million,
10 million? Okay.
yes. And I can tell you also that part of the reason we have the revenues we have in here is because we have pharmacy services. And those pharmacy services have contributed a lot to Harrison County. We're able to get individuals medications at a cheaper cost. Our pharmacy is in Forest County, but every day we deliver those medications to the CSUs and to our other facilities as well. So people who are in need of medications are also able to get that, but pharmacy plays a big role in the success of Harrison County.
One more point, 13 counties contribute $3.4 million to Pineville Region 12. Harrison County represents 2.1 of that total, which is 62% contribution from the counties. Harrison County represents the most contribution to Region 12.
Harrison County represents 3.79% as a percentage of our total budget. So
Not
it's
total,
not
I'm talking about
61%.
county contributions.
That's what I'm talking about. Your county contribution
No, I'm
represents.
talking about each county contributes so much a year. Of that, each year, 3.4 million is out of all 13 counties combined.
So Harrison County does, yes, Harrison County contributes
62%.
more, yes.
So why is that so much higher than your CSU and Jones County, that county? I don't understand the discrepancy where,
In terms
like
of
Jones
what,
County, I understand, contributes $195,000 a year. And we contribute 2.1 million. So there's a reason.
Let me, when these counties, most of these counties have been established for almost 40 years that we've been providing services to. And when the regions were originally established, statute stated a specific number, it's 3/4 of a mil of 1982 or 1984, okay? Many of those counties, that's what they choose to pay.
Right.
Now, when we came on, and I will tell you that we're fighting to get that changed because it's not paying for the services that need to be paid in those counties, okay? When you all came to us and asked us to take you on, you said, give us a dollar amount. We basically said, pay us what you're paying your current location, and that was agreed upon. And so that's why that number is what it is.
But again, forgive me, board members, that was your idea to pool everything together. This county, if you want to talk about how we were operating Region 13, we broke out amount of money to operate the CSU and contributed, but y'all said put it all together. But I think this county should say, identify the services they want to operate the CSU, because we're the client. We're the ones, the taxpayers are the ones paying. And we have an agreement for you to do it. You should identify what you're gonna do in the CSU and how much you're gonna pay your staff and how much you're gonna, set aside of that 2.1 million to operate, because that's been the biggest problem. The services are great, but it never identified involuntary commitments. And that's where
not true.
it isn't.
No, we have
I've
a
looked through the
budget.
agreement, I've looked through the catchment area and the obligation of a CSU. I do not see that.
We have those in our internal budgets. We set them aside for that. We know what they're supposed to cost. We have actually increased salaries in the last year to be able to bring people on. That is not something that's typically in statute.
That's not my point. My point is, the county's paying for a service, for the involuntary mental commitment service is not identified. And it should be, because that's been the biggest problem for our commitments. We're doing our part in the court, the judges are doing their part, but they have to have bed placement. So CSU is hopefully, was gonna be our answer. But we need to know. I mean, I think would be a fair thing to do, to come back to the county and say, of this $2.1 million or whatever, we need to set aside this much to operate the CSU, because that's our biggest problem.
I guess I'm confused because we have set that aside and we haven't operating it. We've not come back to
I
you
don't
to
know if this
ask
board's
for
seen
any
it.
other money on that. I realize that you guys have paid the privates. My understanding is before we came into play, you were paying them a whole lot more. Or you were coming every month to month and having to continue to give money.
We didn't.
However, we, again, as Don said, that's how
We
we've
didn't-
set
we
up.
never paid the private
Excuse me,
hospital,
we
so
didn't
let's
pay that
straighten that
amount
out.
when we realized what we were getting into.
Okay.
We got out of it.
Okay, gotcha. That's what I was speaking about then, you're right. Okay. But again, the costs have been covered. It's not that we're not going to add to as soon as we can. Many times when we had 16 beds, they were not full. So, I mean, we are continuing to try to continue to open it, hire staff. We have 2 positions left to get in there, and then we can go back to 16.
One last point, excuse me, Mr. President. 382 citizens of Harrison County need mental treatment and committed 382 last year, 2021. So that's a lot of bed, needs.
And 305 of those have gone into the CSU. And we've also helped to divert some of those out of those other hospitals
305 of
into the
Harrison County
outpatient of
commitments.
Harrison County,
I will
yes.
double check that.
Well, those, based on our data and also based on data we got from your office, so yes, we
Yeah.
can double check that. Any other questions, sir?
I don't have anything else from the board members.
I will say also that I know Reverend, well, I guess he probably is. Representative Kevin Felcher has been working with us hard to develop a diversion center concept. And so we have a meeting on August 18th with some of the core members, him guiding it. And so just wanted to let y'all know that is another option to hopefully have all of these individuals 24/7 go and get assessed there. So then they can be dispersed after that instead of having to go into ERs and the private hospitals at that point. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Before we move on to our consent agenda, is Ms. Judy, is she ever come in? Okay, you want to come on
The
up?
last name?
Yes, Steve, yes.
Is Renee here, Wiggins? We need a time.
Okay, Ms. Steve, I want you to come on up and state your reason, give me your name and your address for the record. And
Thank
we're
you.
going, one more thing, we're gonna limit this.
My name is Judith Skiba, and thank you for having me here today. I have a little different issues than I guess what everybody else talked
We
about.
only have 3 minutes, this one.
Okay, my address is 2014 11th Street, Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Perfect.
Okay. Since the beginning of time that Mississippi has been a state, we have always been 95% Christian beliefs. And recently, we've had to face as Christians a lot of dilemmas of things that we don't really know how to deal with. As I read about the transgender that was killed in Gulfport, Mississippi, I figured it was time to come up with some new laws. And hopefully that today, maybe if the board and others feel that maybe these might be important, we can promote them and we can maybe, add them to some kind of a law for the counties here in Harrison and Jackson County. Now, there is a story about a man who killed another man in cold blood, and he was hiding from the law, and he knew that the law was fixing to arrest him and catch him, so he wanted to change his identity. He decided to become a transgender so he could live with his family and his children and everything else. Well, somebody had told on him and he had gotten caught. Well, this isn't the only story that somebody has wanted to change their gender to avoid the law, for something that they have committed in that. Okay, I've come up with 3 different laws here, and hopefully that they might be kind of helpful to law enforcement. Because we have a big number of, we have a lot of organizations and groups right now promoting transgenders, and they're making it like it's simple, like you just change your clothes and you can change your identity and that, and some don't agree with that. The first law would be to, once a person becomes a transgender, to be required by law to be fingerprinted. And this would be either at the police station or Department of Motor Vehicles. They would also have a code on their driver's license acknowledging to the law enforcement agencies that they are a transgender. This is only for the purpose of the law enforcement trying to investigate crimes and that. It should be required by law that a transgender tell a partner that they are a transgender. And I believe that this is maybe what had happened last month on that to a young lady who was a transgender. You can't trick people or deceive people. You have to be honest with people. You have to tell people, because once somebody finds out, if you don't give somebody an opportunity to walk away in the very beginning, it causes problems. It causes somebody to become violent. And I do think that if you required somebody to let transgender to let somebody know that they are, it would lessen crime a lot more. And I believe that mental health be required. It's hard to make a transition from one sex to another, and I think a lot of people would have issues with that. So if the board here and anybody on the board would feel that maybe these are kind of important, that I would feel that help promote them and see to it that maybe it might work in our counties and that, to help lower crime and that.
Okay.
Thank
We really appreciate you. We really do appreciate any of our citizens coming in,
Thank you.
having any kind of additional policy that can help us out. Thank you so much. Next, we'll move on. Well, we have a 10:30 hearing, so we'll get started on our hearing.
If you wanted to do the consent agenda, everyone's outside, or some of the attorneys are
Okay.
outside, I can get that.
There's also number 5, if you want to go ahead and knock that one out.
Okay. All right, number 5 is the order concurring with the resolution of the Harrison County Development Commission authorizing and approving extension of the purchase agreement for sale of approximately 50 acres of real property to 42 LLC, a Texas Limited Liability Company, DBA 42 Real Estate LLC, for the purpose of construction thereon 24/7, 365 sorting and distribution facility in accordance with the amendment to the purchase and sales agreement passed in Exhibit A. I'm sorry, Exhibit B.
Motion.
Can we get a second?
Second discussion, why are they next?
This is a very large company that's not Brown, that delivers packages, so it takes a little bit longer to get things done.
As a rule, Bill, how long will you get, how many extensions are?
This is their-
Let me say you're gonna give.
This is their
the
third
second
and final extension, and this one, each
It is?
extension has carried a fee, and this fee is double what the last 2 were. So it's non-refundable. It does count towards the purchase price, but if they don't close, then it's revenue to the
So
county.
this is the last one, and
Yes.
if they don't purchase the property, they'll forfeit those, what, roughly 75,000, 100,000?
Call the question.
Okay. Sorry. Any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I have one more.
Thank you.
Number Ms. Ian? Carl? Mr. Parker, be late. We're gonna skip down to number 50.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We know you got the help, so we want to Carl,
Outstanding.
That's great.
What's that?
Grant Chauncey.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, we're gonna go to number 50, order adjudicating 2022 Edward Barnes Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program submitted for the district attorney for hiring a victim assistance coordinator and purchasing technology to enhance the use of virtual tools for case management in the amount of $290,500. No match required for your grant.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion.
How long is the grant for?
It's a 4-year grant. It's no match by the county, and there's no obligation once the grant is over. So if we can get this victim coordinator at the end of 4 years, there's no obligation for the board. So I think this is a great deal. It's through the Department of Justice, and I think they could really help. But it's no obligation to the county other than to help us administer it if we're able to get it.
And it'll last longer than 4 years too?
No, it'll last 4 years, and we're going to use some of that to enhance our virtual tools, really to go paperless. I mean, we spend over $10,000 on Blu-ray CDs, and we're going to go to Dropbox, and it's gonna help. And then if we can get another, I'm going to meet with y'all on Wednesday, and I'll go into more detail. But getting another victim coordinator and having Department of Justice pay for it, that's the way to go. I've been researching it, and that's what most other counties are doing. So,
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
any other
further
questions?
discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank y'all very much. See y'all on Wednesday.
All right.
All right.
I don't pass it up. What is it? 19?
19.
Moving on to number 19, so Mr. Patrick, probably going to get started. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes.
10:30 a.m. appeal filed by Christopher Peck, Lori DeVecca, and Yolanda McGee of the Planning Commission's decision to approve case file number 2108 HC 164 for this is right, for a zoning map amendment and conditional use permit filed by Robert Heinrich of Heinrich and Associates and for S&W Properties LLC, requesting approval to change the zoning district classification of a 23-acre parcel of land. The property is currently zoned as a C2 general commercial district. The request is to change the zoning district classification to the R1 low-density residential district for the purpose of developing Walker Farms South, a single-family residential subdivision with approximately 56 lots as shown in the site plan. Residential subdivisions require a conditional use permit from the Planning Commission. Subject property is located at 19530 Highway 53. And then the ad valorem tax parcel number is 0606E-01-009.002, Supervisor District 2.
For clarification purposes, what we're considering here is a conditional use permit and also a zoning change on another piece of property.
That is correct. So these two appeals are for the same subdivision, but different phases of the subdivision. Each one connects to the other. So I do expect 2 votes, one for each case file number. But this one connects to Highway 53 at the south. Many years ago, it was rezoned to the commercial district. It happens to be adjacent to a power substation a little bit east of Shaw Road as it goes north from 53. And the other case goes through it. The Planning Commission voted twice on the project, and it's been appealed both times, but the developers tried to work with the neighbors to amend the site plan both times. So this is the first time you're hearing this appeal, but it has been before the planning commission at least 3 times. And
There was some statements in the record that this conditional use permit came before the board, and we remanded it back to the commission, so we must have heard it. It must have been an appeal
that's the
before.
next case. The next case before this
I'm talking
one.
about the conditional use permit case, has been before this board.
That's correct. But that's
And
the
we
second
remanded
appeal.
it back to the commission. I understand the zoning issue has not been before us. Just want to get this clear in my mind, what we're doing.
So this one is for the southern subdivision called Walker Farm South. Even though there's multiple appellants, we've dealt with this issue before, we are limited to 3 speakers each side. Mr. Simpson, I believe, is representing the appellants, and maybe 2 of the appellants will speak.
Mr. President, we will hear what happened when they met with the neighbors. We will hear that, or we will not hear that.
Some of it's in the record.
Right, and you know, each side is.
Some of it's in the transcript about the discussions between the neighbors and the developer.
In this case, the neighbors are the appellants.
Yeah.
So we're limited to 3 speakers, 10 minutes each.
Are we gonna do this as separate hearings?
For the 2 separate appeals.
Let's ask everybody to limit themselves to the first appeal and then do the second appeal separate, so we're not hearing the same thing twice. We can.
So the first one's zoning.
First one's zoning
And a conditional use permit.
The second one's just
it's
a conditional use
phase
permit.
Called Walker Farm South, it's the one we're working on first.
Mr. President, if I may, with council's suggestion, have the board consider that as well. The discussion between Malcolm and myself and some of the residents, these Walker Farms West and South have a common border. They join one another. One of the main issues you're going to hear today, and has been over the last year over this property, is the configuration of the infrastructure, the roads, and the egress and exits, ingress and egress from Highway 53 and Shaw Road. To discuss those, you necessarily have to talk about both parcels, Walker Farm West and South, because, for example, if we just talk about South, the road that the developer proposes travels north into Walker Farm West and then takes a left turn out to Shaw Road. You can't really talk about one without talking about the other. So for the purposes of this appeal, I might suggest, I don't know if Malcolm has an opinion, that for the purposes of argument, you combine the 2 cases. Mr. Ladner is correct, Supervisor Ladner. Walker Farms West application is only for a conditional use permit. It's already zoned R1. Walker Farms South is a conditional use permit and a zoning amendment. So there are some differences between the 2. There are 2 different votes you would have to take. But the parcels are interconnected such, it's going to be hard to discuss one without doing the other.
I guess, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
For argument's sake, if the board were to approve, for example, the conditional use permit and deny the zoning change, the conditional use permit then would be.
Moot. We're doing no good.
Would be moot, right?
I think so. Mr. Jones, I want to speak to that.
Malcolm, if I can interject for 1 second.
Do we have an agreement that we can do this and combine these 2 hearings? And vote, you have to have a separate vote on each one.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with that. We did it as a joint hearing at the planning
What I read
commission
in the
level
transcript.
anyway. So, but as long as there's 2 separate votes, and Mr. Ladner, to your question, on the one that's a conditional use, if you approve the conditional use, then it can go forward. It doesn't require a zoning change. But the one that requires both a zoning change and a conditional use, effectively, although I guess you can technically build a subdivision in the C2 zone without a zoning change, there's some restrictive
The setbacks are
setbacks that would be a bit onerous. We probably would not go forward with it without the zoning change.
Without the zoning.
Yeah.
Is there any real issue about the zoning change?
Yes, sir.
Oh, there is?
Sure.
It would be like it was residential regardless, if it was on the highway.
No, it's C2 right now.
Right.
You want the accounts to go first?
Yeah.
All right. If I could have just a minute, please.
Move the thing out of your way.
It doesn't do anything, I guess. I don't know why it was, what it was doing.
It might be, is somebody on the phone? Is Rebecca on the phone?
Connie's here, so there's no need for that.
This is in District 2. Ms. Powers is going to be absent today, apparently. That's a shame.
Dean, can we separate the zoning change from the conditional use permits with the issue? I don't
Sure.
want to mess up your argument. but
Sure.
It may be helpful to the board to hear
Yeah.
the zoning versus conditional use permit.
First thing, give me a minute to put this map up, or, well, I took that board out. I don't have any place to put it up. Malcolm, this is your map. I think, yeah, let's do that. Let's give them the small one. Did we lose Ms. Martin too? Mr. Jones, we want to wait or?
No, we can go ahead.
All right, gentlemen and ladies, my name is Stephen Simpson. I represent the various homeowners and residents surrounding the current Walker Farms subdivision. On the map that you have before you, I'm going to point out, you'll see a relatively distinct black line that runs almost through the middle of your page of that plat. That is what separates Walker Farms West, which is on the top of your page, and Walker Farms South, which is on the bottom. South, of course, has an entrance off Highway 53. The south one, as I suggested, is requesting a zoning amendment change from its current C2 zoning to R1 and a conditional use permit. Walker Farms West, the top half of your page, is already zoned R1 and is requesting a conditional use permit. The issues that have been back and forth over a year or more with the Planning Commission consist of disputes including the normal drainage and other things, but have centrally focused on lot size objections and traffic and the seriousness of the volume of traffic, the impact on the infrastructure of the current Walker Farms lane, the road that gives access. And you will notice again, the top half of that page to the right, you'll see a number of rather large lots. Those are built out, those are current homes. There's nothing to the bottom half of that page or to the left of Walker Farms Lane and where those homes are. Those are the proposed two developments. The problem has been, and this board may remember, that through a series of different changes to the plat, an ingress and egress from Walker Farm Lanes and Shaw Road has come and gone a couple of different times. Now, there's always been one to Highway 53, but at one time that was going to be the only way in and out of the existing homes and 200 and some odd new homes that they're proposing in these two subdivisions. Because that's too many houses under the ordinance for one ingress and egress, they had to develop another one out on the Shaw Road. This board expressed serious concerns about the danger of that. All of you are familiar with that dangerous curve. I've never seen a piece of county road that has as many flashing lights, painted roadway, curve signs, warnings about the dangerous condition of that particular curve. I'm not suggesting that's the developer's fault, but it exists. And there have been fatalities out there that have been talked about in this record. So what they did is they took the road going to Shaw Road out of their last meeting, or the meeting before the Planning Commission. Planning Commission approved it. This board sent it back. Then the talk was about lot size. It got sent back. Now today, and the Planning Commission last approved in May, has this road going out to the east back onto Shaw Road. The owners have a serious problem with that, with the danger of that. But another problem is you have Walker Farm Lane that you see runs up into the existing development and will have to be responsible for most of the traffic coming south to Highway 53. Well, all of the traffic out of the two subdivisions and the existing subdivision will have to come south on Walker Farm Lane. That road is in disrepair and not good shape and has never been finished being overlaid. That road has never been dedicated to the county. It's a privately owned road still by the developer who over 10 years ago built the Walker Farms that exist now out there. There are pictures of it in record. Pat acknowledged it at the last meeting that there's one coat of overlay on it. The curbs stick up an inch or two above the sides of the overlay. It's still missing an overlay. If the developers, yes ma'am.
Who built that road?
S&W Properties LLC. They were the developer. And Mr. Jones will tell you that's not their problem, that's not their client, and that it's still under warranty and the county can make them come back out there and finish it. Well, their application says Mr. Henry through S&W Properties LLC with a Louisiana address. If that's not the same developer, I don't know who it is. But it's not finished. And now you want to more than double. If you take 2 cars of normal household times 200 and some odd houses, that's another 400 some odd cars on infrastructure that's already falling apart.
Let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
That's an existing subdivision.
Yes.
That existing subdivision, the roads, how long has it been operating?
About 10 years, I'm going to say, Mr.
The
Ladner.
question that I would have is, how long do we give a developer to upgrade the roads to county specifications so that they can be county maintained? How long will we allow that? Is there any rules, regulations, or law indicating that a developer has to finish the road system so that the proper maintenance can be made on it?
There's a bond that was put in place that was supposed to ensure that, where the county would take it over and use the bond to bring it up to spec, but if you never accepted the roadway, it's just not a public roadway until it's accepted for maintenance.
I think the board will probably acknowledge, and the attorneys certainly know, that developers are usually anxious to finish it and get rid of it and give it to y'all. In this case, that never happened. In this case, it never happened. But my point is, not only has the developer not fulfilled his original obligations, and if this is not the same developer, they got the same name, they got the same address in Louisiana.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Is it the same developer? Is it the same developer?
It's not the same developer. The previous developer is selling the property to another developer.
It's the same.
Well, the applicant is the same.
Applicant's the same.
The landowners are different in the 2 cases. So this one is the same person that developed the original Walker Farm subdivision.
That's where the road is a problem.
So this was a unfinished phase. This property was intended to be a commercial development.
When you say this property, you're talking
Walker Farm South.
If I may, Tim, help me out. Old country boy here needs some clarification. Are you telling me that the developers that we're considering the conditional use permit and the zoning change are the same developer or is involved in the old existing Walker Farm subdivision now?
I can only speak to what's on the application, and it's the same. Now, if
It
it's,
is the same?
yes, sir, it is.
Y'all should know.
We'll answer.
We
With our
stand up and
attorney.
answer it, or?
No,
about the question now, so you can answer it if you
Go
will.
ahead.
You want to answer it now, I mean, that's
We're
the
not gonna take it away
question.
from Mr. Simpson's time.
That's what I didn't want to do.
Okay.
Bobby Heinrich.
Don't include his time. Mr. Simpson.
Stop.
So, my understanding, 10 or 12 years ago, this project was done. We'll call it the original Walker Farm. The property has been sold to another developer that's that's why we're going through this process. Anything that has to do with,
That's part of these two. You keep saying, nobody's identified which property. Old Walker Farm, the one that's already done, or
well, the road comes down through the commercial land that we're talking about right now, that drive or that road.
Walker Farm Lane?
Yes, sir. okay?
We seem to be having what would, to me, be a simple answer. The same developer that is developing before us and proposing a conditional use permit and a zoning change before the board, is it the same developer that developed Walker Farm, the existing Walker Farm subdivision? What's so difficult about that? It is or it is not?
The normal process is when you have a developer buy a piece of property, he's not gonna buy that piece of property until we go through this process. So those problems, he knew nothing about those problems. I mean, it has nothing to do with the parcel of land that we're talking about. It's the owner, but it's not that part, it's a separate
So what
parcel.
you're saying is that it's a different developer if the zoning is approved and
Yes,
if the
sir.
conditional use permit.
So the owner
is
of that
going to
parcel.
buy it from the existing owner of Walker Farm, the existing Walker Farm subdivision. He's gonna buy it.
Yes, sir. So, but when you make application, it has to be the rightful owner that makes
Right,
the
I
application.
understand.
But these parcels that we're talking about have nothing to do with the north.
I got it.
That's a whole different warranty deed or warranty period and all that stuff. So if it wasn't done 12 years ago, that wasn't the buyer's responsibility to go back
The
and
new
pay something. I
potential
mean,
buyer, the one that's.
potential buyer, yes, right.
I got you.
But it's a totally separate parcel of land. It has nothing to do with the original Walker Farm subdivision.
So, I guess the next question would be, and then I'll be quiet. The next question would be, assuming that it's approved, the conditional use permit and zoning is approved, the sale of the property will occur with a different developer. But that developer is that your developer that will ultimately own it? He won't be responsible for upgrading the road.
No, sir.
So you're gonna have an improved road at the west subdivision?
Neither one of them are approved at this time, Mr. Levin.
But if it were approved, at some point, the road west, the west subdivision, could be improved, and I would assume would be, but the south part will not be.
Well, can I say?
Could ultimately occur unless the county takes some action to force it.
May I comment, Mr. Ladner? Because I am concerned about this. We've been meeting, Jackie and I have, having this issue with other subdivisions, so it's something on top of my mind we haven't figured out yet. The man that originally developed Walker Farms, where the road is bad, he owns the property that you're buying from,
Separate parcels.
separate parcel. So he's gonna take his money and leave the county with Walker Farms if we grant this, if the board decides to grant it. He gonna get his money out of the other two properties and leave the county with the mess of how to fix a road that he didn't build to specs. And your guys will then turn around and say, I don't have anything to do with that.
Let me say.
Do you see that as a problem? I mean, y'all see that as a problem?
I see it as an issue, but I'll tell you this, the part that Mr. Simpson said about the fact that the road wasn't accepted for maintenance by the county, I don't see that. I don't see that anywhere in the record. This plat has been
Don't know, I haven't
filed
looked at it.
for a long time, and I'm totally unaware of that not being a county road at this point. It is long accepted.
It's a county road.
It may have a right of way, just the road's never been accepted for maintenance. So it's not a public road in that sense. It doesn't have a right of way created.
I'm not even
I don't
aware
know
of
that. I don't know that. That's just what y'all said.
In the May 19th hearing, Mr. Bonk, on behalf of the county, said the road had not been dedicated to the county. And I can read it to you if you'd like.
Is that true, Pat?
I don't have proof that it hasn't been dedicated, but in the plat, the right of way is that it's a normal
We
subdivision.
understand that, Patrick. The bottom line is whether, and I think Tim is hitting on a point, at some point, we're gonna have to deal with this problem. The county's gonna have to deal with this road situation. It's gonna deteriorate. And the people that are living in that Walker Farm subdivision now is gonna be calling, wanting to know why the county is not doing something about the road, rightfully so. They assumed at some point. What option do we have, Tim, of forcing the developer now that has Walker Farm subdivision, force him to do the road? is there enough bond money for us to do it? Call on any bonds? Would that cover the cost?
I don't know. I
Or
don't
is
know
the
about
taxpayers now gonna have to sit up here and pay the cost to finish that road, which he should have done to start with?
It's a multifaceted problem, and I don't have a clear answer to it. There is a bond that's put in place that the county can proceed against, because this has been there for 10 years. I'm not sure why we hadn't heard about it, but that's one method. The other method is to make a claim against the developer, to say that you've got to bring the road up to county specs before. And
It seems like within 10 years, something would have been done. Somebody would have made some movement within 10 years to see that that developer built that road to county specifications so we can maintain it.
we kind of have a problem in that we're doing something that's creating this problem a little bit, and that what happens is the developer gets to a certain point, and we have not accepted the roadway. He's allowed to put up a bond that he's gonna finish it to county standards, and then they are allowed to sell building permits before that's final. The only thing that there's a bond sitting there, and the developers think, at least one that we met with, think that once they put the bond up, they're done.
But Tim,
That's
does
not
the
correct.
bond actually cover the cost
I don't,
of the actual, or is the taxpayers gonna have to subsidize?
that's the point.
Because he made the money off this subdivision.
I think the bond is generally set by the county engineer or somebody at the county level that looks at how much will it cost the county to put that final layer of asphalt in there. What it doesn't address is when the subbase is being torn up in the construction by the concrete trucks and whatever other trucks are going on the roadway. I don't think that bond is sufficient to cover fixing the base, but it's my opinion that the developer is responsible to provide the county with a road at the end of the job that the county accepts. And that road has to be to county specs. If we don't accept it, it's not a public road and the county doesn't maintain it. The problem is, and my concern is, that we are issuing building permits that allow citizens to buy houses on this unfinished roadway when we have no mechanism in place to force that developer to properly finish that roadway if there's other than just the final layer of asphalt.
And I'm sure those citizens, when they're buying those homes, they are under the impression, and maybe be given by the developer, that that's gonna be a county-maintained road, that's gonna be up to standard. They're told that, but there's no assurances that that's going to happen at his cost.
My concern in this particular instance is this gentleman selling the property and walking away, and how are we gonna chase him?
So, Mr. Ladner, to try to, because, this was not a big issue that was raised at the planning commission level that we're prepared to go ahead and respond to today. And, we're sort of limited to the record that was made at the planning commission level. I would recommend that you go ahead and at least table this today to let us go ahead and find out, has it been accepted for maintenance, has it not? Is there a bond in place, is it not? What can be done so that you'll know exactly where you stand? Because we're not trying to, we're here on the application that's filed, but the real developer that we're representing is the one that's gonna build this, not the one that was the other one. So all I'm suggesting is that there are a lot of unanswered questions, and we're not trying to hurry you to push this ahead when you're not fully informed to make a decision. So I would
Tim,
ask
do
you to
you have
table.
any idea if this road is county maintained?
It's not,
It's
as
not.
right now, no, sir. It's
So
not
it
been
hasn't been
accepted, it's that part of it.
It has not been accepted, so
We
it's
don't know
not a
that.
county maintained
Not
road.
maintained, but
Mr. President, if someone would ask a question for clarification of the record, because these things have a tendency to go on appeal, as y'all well know. I don't know whether they're here on behalf of a potential developer, or as the applicant says, on behalf of S&W Properties LLC, who's the owner. They're supposed to be here on behalf of the owner. Now, they got an agent letter from the properties from S&W LLC, but if they're here on behalf of the developer, they got no standing to be here on an application. You gotta be the owner. Now, they either here on behalf of a developer, or they're here on behalf of S&W. I need to know who it is.
So I can make that real simple. We're here on behalf of the applicant, who is the owner. But you asked a very straightforward question of who's gonna develop this project, and there is somebody separate that's a developer that would buy this, and so I wanted to answer it truthfully, to answer your question, Mr. Ladner. But I really think that at this point, given these questions that have been raised that we have not had to address before now, if we can go ahead and table it, so we can get the right answers and come back to you, Mr. Holloman can do his research and figure
I'll
it
make a
out.
recommendation, let's remand it back to the planning commission and make them develop a record that includes the issue in the road.
But why,
Otherwise, we're not gonna have a record.
but why does the planning commission have to do that, when in fact it's just
Because
a
they
question
should
of
have
the
done
county?
Because we're limited to a record that
That's
came up from the planning
exactly
commission.
right.
But Tim, and I cannot in good conscience vote to approve any more development around that road, that road is gonna be used. If this is approved, that road that is not at this point county maintained, and we don't know yet when it's gonna be or who's gonna pay for it, I cannot in good conscience approve any, conditional use permit with that road at issue.
So
Until I have assurances that that road is gonna be built to county standards, and then accepted by the county, once it's built to county standards, so that we can maintain it, then I'm not gonna allow somebody to come in, I would not, in good conscience, allow other houses to be built, another subdivision to be built up there, and that road still be uncertain as to what condition it will be and who's gonna repair it. Or pay
Yes,
for
sir.
it.
So Walker Lane from,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
So there is a third application for Walker Farm North with approximately 150 houses. So that is in the future, near future, that's gonna come to you, more than likely. And, it's already zoned R1, but that would be another whole number of construction activities and.
Exactly, and
being
the
built
issue,
there.
On the same road.
and the issue of entering Shaw Road will still be an issue and concern.
Yes.
And therefore, that Walker Farm Road, that existing Walker Farm Road subdivision where the road is, would be an issue. Until that's settled, I don't think we
Mr.
can,
President,
we should deal with it.
I make a motion that we remand it back to the planning commission to take care of all issues that we have before.
We're gonna limit the
Especially
record.
that road.
I'll second discussion.
Okay.
If it goes back to the commission, what is the authority of the commission? Can they determine whether the road's gonna be maintained and who's gonna do it and get all that done?
How do you approve, or can I ask a question, Patrick? How do you approve a subdivision that's dumping vehicles on a road that's not been accepted by the county for maintenance? Period. How do you do that?
Yeah.
How do we approve a subdivision where we've got a road that's,
And does the buyer even know that this has occurred? Or does he know any of this
I
problem?
think it's a segment of the road, it's not the entire subdivision. So I do believe that the northern part is level, the asphalt is level with the curb, but the southern part through this portion is not.
It
And
doesn't matter. If we haven't accepted it, we can't, it's not our concern. It's their concern,
So-
my opinion.
It ultimately becomes our concern because the citizens that are purchasing those houses have a reasonable expectation to expect that that road will be up to par, up to county standards, and will be accepted by the county for future maintenance. That's just a reasonable expectation that any citizen would have. They don't understand or think about all the complications, who's gonna develop the road, who's gonna pay for it, and all that stuff. They just expect that that's a public road, and therefore the county is gonna make sure that the road is built to standards and accepted for future maintenance.
So is that the grounds that we're remanding it back to the planning commission?
What I'm asking is that, can the planning commission settle this problem with the road?
I think they can tell the owner of the property that they're not gonna be granted a conditional use permit or a subdivision, I'm sorry, change in zoning where their subdivision is gonna be exiting on a road that's not been accepted by the county.
I may say, Tim, the prospective buyer that apparently they're representing, the prospective buyer needs to understand that he's not gonna get his conditional use permit or zoning change until that issue with the road is settled.
Patrick, you had something.
So I would like to propose that at the planning commission, we limit the record to the issue of the roads, what's dedicated and what's not, and we'll produce a map that will be added to the record. But I don't want to open this up to a million other
Just to
arguments.
address this issue.
Yes, ma'am.
Just make it
And
understood.
we will make it a map that clearly
The
delineates
commission
what's
needs to
acceptable and not.
understand, I would assume they shouldn't approve anything without the road issue being settled. And if they don't understand it, I think the Board of Supervisors understand it, that we will never approve an existing subdivision that will use that road, another proposed subdivision that will use that road until that road issue is settled as far as county maintenance and specificate up to par specifications. I mean, that's my opinion, the board can speak for itself, others, but I think they need to understand.
And Mr. Ladner, the transcript shows that there was extensive discussion before the planning commission about the condition of the road, the fact that not, there was extensive discussion about it, so it clearly was in the record last time.
Right.
Okay, Heinrich, I feel we do need to go back and have this discussion, but these are developers, and I'm sure, and I'm gonna be representing the North too. So, I'll discuss this with them and we'll work this out to see if this previous owner, he needs to step up to the plate and finish this road up.
Current owner.
Now,
I'm sorry.
what also needs to be understood is that what we're saying here, if the road itself is all settled, that does not necessarily say that we're going to approve the conditional use permit. We're gonna have the hearing on that, but I can tell you until that road's settled, I would never approve. And don't misunderstand, don't extrapolate from what we're saying now about the road. Automatically, if that's settled, that the conditional use permit and the zoning issue is also approved, Jeff.
Right.
That has to be.
And we had other objections, the road was just the first one we got to,
That's what
I
I want to
understand.
point out, that
Yes,
they
sir.
don't misunderstand, that if they do the road situation, that everything else is settled.
Yes, sir, we're not waiving our other
We got to
objections.
have it.
Yes, sir, I understand, thank you.
We're willing to work everything out. We've gone through, safety of the road, of Shaw Road, then it went to lot size, and now we're going to a road that my client didn't even own. So we're gonna work through this and get it done.
Bobby, you can understand the
I
problem.
understand.
I mean, it's not just y'all. I mean, we've had this meet with other developers. They seem to think that
This should have
once
happened
they-
12 years ago, though. I mean, there were-
I don't disagree with you.
This
gentleman should
developer
not
here,
profit off of it
that's right.
and walk away to leave the county with that problem.
But I don't want it to hinder.
Not
my
nothing
client.
against your guys.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't have to be allowed to sell the property when he has.
I agree with that. If that's something the board is requesting, then we're gonna get to the bottom of it. But again, this developer, both these developers are gonna have to do that same, and I think it's a 2-year warranty period now in Harrison County, if I'm not mistaken, Jackie, is it 2 years?
It's a 2-year bond and home building and then a warranty after.
But you need to make
So-
damn sure that that bond is enough money to cover.
So back 12 years ago, or 10 or whatever it was, that should have been, that bond should have been full.
I got that experience.
Well, the bond just secures it, it's not the liability. Liability is against the developer. It's not, the bond is just a method of securing that he does what he's supposed to do. That's the problem with the bonding process is what I understand has been going, what they do is they're looking at how much it's gonna cost to put the final layer of asphalt on it. And what happens is the ongoing construction, the concrete trucks, that they go in there and tear up the subbase, then the developer, we have one right there we're arguing with, says, I'm not responsible for that. And I said, no, you're responsible for providing the county a road built to county specifications. And the concern I have is we're issuing building permits
They normally go
based
back
on that
on.
final layer of asphalt, and that has nothing to do with the subbase. It does, but they think it does.
And after 10 years of traffic, if all it needs is an overlay, I'll be shocked.
Well,
I'm
but
sure
the
the
problem
subbase
is,
is
if you didn't
down.
finish the job is the reason
That's
to
right.
tore up the subbase.
But that went to his question, is the performance con, will be enough to completely fix it? I'd be
He
shocked.
has an obligation to fix it.
You're right.
All
No,
of
sir.
it.
It will not be.
Mr. Ladner, you know that the problem is not just whether you're gonna allow these other subdivisions to go forward. The question is, why is the building department issuing building permits for a road that's not finished?
That's
Doing
not
it.
it.
I can address that.
That's
We
not
had
wrong.
issues where we would go in and they would, put in the last, they'd finish the road.
Right.
Then they would come in and do another part of the subdivision. The subdivision would, the trucks would tear up the road because the subdivision was not, the roads were not built for anything but car travel. So then the big dump trucks and everything would tear up the road. So we came up and said, okay, what's another way we can handle this? Well, we'll wait till, and not put the final overlay
It was to
in
protect us
until
now.
after everything is done. And that was the reason for that. And it seemed to work for a long time. Now we're having issues with it, as usual.
Exactly, that's why I asked the question, 10 years,
I know.
that should have already been settled.
Right, I agree.
Exactly.
I agree, and I dare say it would not happen under the new county engineer's watch at all.
We won't accept maintenance
Well, I'm
when the
guessing-
concrete trucks are still coming and going and tearing the road up and then the taxpayers have to repair.
I'm guessing, Mr. Ladner, but looking at the plat, what it was, they finished this Walker Farm subdivision up there. They didn't want to finish the road south of there because they knew they were gonna be developing it more and building more
Right.
houses
Right.
and tearing up the subdivision. That's what it looks like. And they didn't do it in that 10 years.
Yeah.
But.
Well, the original plat, if you're looking at the original, they could have built the houses just as the existing houses were and been within the numerical number of houses that Walker Farm Lanes would have serviced it.
Right.
The new plat puts it double that amount, so they gotta have more roadway.
Can we go ahead and just call it?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
Call question.
Motion is to remand it back to planning commission to develop the issue about the roadway.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda items of number 6. Yes, yes. Item number 6 to 12. I'm sorry. Item LLC successful in the interest of Sundown Circuit Development LLC, the Bridgewater Bay project approved July 11, 2022.
May I make a comment that A is the attachment to the minutes, the agreement is correct, but the exhibits are not, and I've got.
So we need to table this here until that's straight?
I would just go ahead and vote and allow me to substitute let me substitute the correct copy. I've got it, we just didn't have it.
I make a motion to approve,
A-
substitution of the correct,
And we'll substitute the correct agreement.
I still move.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. 13, order acknowledging receipt of and approving petitions for decreases to the 2021 real property rule as recommended by the tax assessor. Motion. Second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. 14, order approving county travel reimbursement for tax assessor's office as listed. Motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 15, order approving travel, hotel, and registration fee for John Carter and Kiana Levins to attend IAAO course 101, September 19, 2023 in Staunton, Mississippi.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Order approving travel for Deputy Coroners Michelle Kamine and Arthur DeBoger to attend the 2022 Meteorological Depth Investigation Conference to be held on September 27 to 29, 2022 in Daytona Beach, Florida. Cost $804 per lodging plus per diem. Motion.
Motion.
Second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. 17, order taking off the request for the city of Biloxi to vacate to Harrison County in the western 150 of McElroy Street in Biloxi at the Youth Detention Center located in section 27, township 7S, range 9W, Supervisor District 1 as recommended by Jackson County.
Motion.
Jack and I recommend y'all not.
Second.
Just leave it tabled for now until we figure out why they're doing it.
still haven't found out what.
Well, my recollection is the city did vacate it, but we were told we had to keep it. We gated it because they had to have it open to allow fire trucks to go through there if they had an emergency. And so I'm not sure the board should take this action until we get to the city and figure out exactly what they want. My understanding is Tim was questioning whether or not he could maintain it. I told him I think he can maintain it.
Yes.
And that was the question he wanted to try to, but there are some utilities under it.
Right.
So basically, it's been vacated to the county on, with conditions.
Yeah, well, I couldn't find that.
One is a zoning text amendment, but the language isn't correct on the board agenda, so I would ask that we table that one, and that'll come back up in the future. The version in the staff report is the right version, but it did not make it to the board agenda.
Motion to table.
On a table on, second on discussion, Pat, just one question and a thought, some of the backup. In reference to grandfather, for example, those, what they call them hydroponic.
That's not this one.
Are we going,
That's the next one.
That's the next one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to table. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. 21.
This is the correct language for number 22.
22, I'm sorry.
So the only change that the planning commission recommended was that the medical cannabis cultivation would be allowed in agricultural districts as small as 2 acres, but everything else in the language remains the same.
Will that take care of Mr. Brian Bricker's issue?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is where Marlon was going, with the hydroponics?
Yes, sir. And
He's
he
a
had,
small farmer, he's already zoned agriculture, and I agree, I think this, with the language you propose, it's making it impossible for somebody like this small farmer to be able to do something.
his property is currently E1, and he has an application to the planning commission right now to go to the A1 district.
So
all
by,
this
so
is
by
in
writing,
order.
you still saying E1
Is not allowed for medical cannabis.
is
It's
not
a
allowed?
residential district.
Okay.
But he is applying to change it to the A1 district, which would allow him.
Would
With the
would
small
they not
one.
be grandfathered in?
That's about.
Medical cannabis is a different thing. He's growing lettuce now, and has been for a very long time.
So the fact that it would be
Medical cannabis.
changed into medical cannabis would not allow it to be grandfathered in.
Completely different set of
So
state
you are
regulations
basically
involved.
saying that we will not allow it on E1.
That's correct. And it was never proposed for the
Any issues
E1.
will have to come before we get changed on
But on the
conditional use permit.
Right, and so that changes in yellow on the next page.
Substitute. I make a motion that we accept the corrected.
And that is what the
version on
planning commission,
A1, which is the minimum of 2 acres as opposed to.
And it has to have at least 2 acres?
Second the motion.
At least, yeah. Discussion.
But that's for agriculture only.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotta help some of these smaller
I got
farmers. I think.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
So our next one,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thanks for coming and being so patient. Tom. Does that take care of it?
So what we have is the land up on County Farm Road. They were just wanting to pass the zoning and just needed a signature. They said everything was passed, but I was just here for the signature of approval. 11450 County Farm Road.
What are we talking, what, I'm sorry.
Number 23.
He's here for his own. This is coming out.
23 is swimming pools. There's no recommended changes. That one's fine. It's been our policy for a long time, but we wanted to put it into the zoning ordinance. Pools and hot tubs.
Wow.
23.
It has a,
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Now, why are we
Discussion.
zoning swimming pools? I'm just curious.
it refers to above ground pools, which includes hot tubs, the setbacks has, if it's above ground, it's considered structure. And it has a big impact in the FEMA regulations. So this just clarifies everything for pool contractors in flood zones and in regular areas If it's above ground pool, it needs to meet the normal setbacks for the subdivision. If it's below ground, it can be as close to a property line as the depth of the pool. It's been the way we've been doing it for years, but it should be. Well, if it's blow up, then it's temporary, but if it's a above ground metal pool, then
But the
it
above
stays for a
ground,
few
you
years.
consider it a structure, so therefore it has to meet the setbacks
Yes, sir.
that any other building would have to,
Stairway,
but an in-ground does not.
But a blow-up pool's okay.
don't go see your zoning officer about a blow up pool.
And we're not talking about a small water
Okay, so item 22, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
And then 24 is something that we've been working on. It applies throughout the county, but it's trying to solve all the problems of the world.
Thank you very much.
So you're saying they can't have outdoor concerts
So
Why are you worried about all this?
we had worked out everything with the neighborhood and the developer, and then the planning commission had a problem, and we amended that. So I do believe everybody's happy with this text amendment for outdoor music.
So, what
Why do you need this? This is crazy. It's gonna make your hair down.
why, you need some control of the music?
Outdoor music is the issue.
I understand that. If you happen, and I know an example that we're dealing with, if you happen to have a commercial approved pot and their house is close by, they're concerned about the noise that could be made from outdoor music if you were to open up a restaurant or
But we
something.
have a noise ordinance.
No, it's, let me tell you this, and so I can speak to it better than me, that, it's almost unenforceable. Am I right, Troy?
Yeah, with the decibels,
With the decimal reading,
the way
you
the
have to
ordinance
be
is
at a
written with the
certain
decibels, there's no
time.
way to do
It's
it.
really an ineffective noise ordinance.
Yeah, the only thing we can do is do it off a time.
Yeah. Patrick, this restricts the time that the outdoor noise can be from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
You had to have a structure and everything, enclosed structure.
It's not a time number on it. Anyway.
It doesn't apply to it if the music
Why don't
is
you just say they have to
inside,
close down
right?
at 12
10
o'clock?
o'clock.
10 o'clock, go during the week, and 12 o'clock
2
at
to 8
night.
PM is when the outdoor bands can play.
2 to
Oh,
8.
yeah, that's when they.
Indoor, it can go all the way
Okay.
down.
3 days, I thought it
Oh,
said.
yeah,
I used to not go out.
that's when I go to
Yeah.
So
concert.
it was 3 to 9, now it's 2
Now I
to 8, and everybody is on
Go to
board.
2
bed.
to 8 now,
AM.
that's for outside music.
So let me make sure I'm correct on this.
I don't think we should.
So you're saying that the ordinance has changed from 2 to 8 instead of 3 to 9. So if they have something at the fairgrounds, they shut it down at 8 o'clock.
There's no residences within 300 feet of.
Yeah, there is. There is right there.
That is
Well,
not commercially zoned property.
I'm gonna say he's right, because it's not commercially zoned.
Were they sure shut up whenever they had to come? Remember what was
Well,
that?
there's residents, I
He
mean,
said they were
I'm a mile away, I guess, as a crow flies, and I can hear the drummer hitting every drum he hits.
But this doesn't say struck the house, it just says which music can be heard for a distance of more than 300 feet from the outside walls of said structure. It doesn't say anything about houses.
So the
It
band can
says
stay inside of the building, but we can't have open windows, open doors. It's just after the 8 o'clock time
But
period.
I guess, to take off on the sheriff's question, are we talking about houses within 300 feet that can't have outdoor music?
They're limited to that time period if there's houses within
It
300 feet.
doesn't say that,
of
it
the
says
property.
300 feet that can be heard.
So I can't have a loud music out at my blow-up pool. I can't have it.
Well,
Just right on the property line.
Thanks a lot.
but
Your
don't-
part of
don't-
town has shut down.
Wow.
Your Biloxi's
Shut
problem, not the
Yeah,
county's
that's all
problem.
about the county.
I'm still not
What
sure.
about SmackDown? Just can't do it.
still not clear on the distance when you say 300 feet that can be heard for a distance of 300 feet. This is what you're saying here. Meaning of
That's
words
not gonna
on
be
the
enforceable
So
either.
look at item C on the table, and the table is not,
Where?
the table was not included on the board agenda, so that's why I printed it out to exhibit. So item C, outdoor music for the residents within 300 feet of the establishment shall only be allowed,
On 2 days.
from, on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and national holidays. There we go. So, and Janelle Bloom is here representing the commercial property owner, and she would like to.
What about these wedding venues that are out? I mean, you know, they have
Those-
receptions.
Wedding.
We've got a couple of wedding venues out in the county.
They're not in zone C2. So, we have, one of the nicest ones is on Northrop Quavis Road. And there's one neighbor who likes to complain, and I understand that that's calmed down quite a bit recently.
But this is gonna give them more.
That does not apply to those.
You know, most people, they want a little
We
reception
table this
afterwards.
until we read it and discuss it more.
Because those are separate planning commission approval process, and it's zoned different. Each of those has a residence on the property.
So you see, you have someone that wants to speak on this?
Yes.
You want to come on up, state your name for the record?
Thank you. Janelle Blum, 2909 13th Street, 6th floor, Gulfport, Mississippi. Mr. President, Supervisors, thank you for the opportunity. I will be brief. I do represent one of the property owners in the C2 district in the county, in the Henderson Point area, and he has been heavily involved as counsel for a lot of the neighbors down there that are worried about a business coming in with loud music. Pat has worked very hard on this, and he's included us in this process. And we certainly, on behalf of Mr. Jenin, didn't want to start out with this 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We didn't like that, but the problem is the current noise ordinance. To have outside music in the county, you have to get a permit. You can only do it twice a month, and you can't hear the music past 50 feet. And that,
Is there some bar or something up here, up down there by Henderson Point? What prompted this?
Prompted it was a proposed development on Malini Bayou.
That's what I was thinking.
She's representing that person.
right, and so when you look at the current ordinance, that's not going to work at all for any, Mr. Jen and anybody else down there to have outside music if you can only do it twice a month with a permit and it can't be heard for further than 50 feet.
So you're representing
Yes.
them.
You're
they're
representing
okay
the
with this?
developer, that the proposed possible development.
Yes.
So this is less lenient than what we already have,
It is.
basically.
Well,
It's more lenient.
More lenient.
More lenient,
More lenient,
right.
I'm sorry, less lenient. Yeah,
right,
you're right.
you don't have to
I'm
have
wrong.
a permit. It is limited to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays between the hours of 2 and 8, and even then it can't be heard for 100 feet, which is not very much, but it's better than the 50 that they,
But water, when
currently-
it hits water, it just makes moist.
it does travel. That's
Noise, I mean,
correct. So,
Sound.
You can get a permit assuming that you're in violation of the noise ordinance. However, I say, I'm not getting a permit, I'm gonna go ahead and have my party or whatever. And somebody calls and complains, the sheriff's not gonna be able to enforce it because it's so burdensome for him to even come, to enforce it.
Well, the ordinance is, and I got a question, we're putting into a zoning ordinance laws that aren't really dealing with zoning, because what you're looking at is somebody that's coming to open up a restaurant, they're gonna be told, in this area, you cannot have one that play music between 2 and 8, after 2 and 8 p.m. I mean, that's different than a zoning ordinance to be forced. We have a law in Mississippi about disturbing the public peace, which is separate from the ordinance that the county passed. I do agree with the sheriff that the problem with the decimal measurement issue is that you have to be there and measure it. So when the police are called, most people turn the music down. By the time the police get there, there's no music being played, and so it's a little bit unenforceable, but that doesn't prevent a citizen from going down and saying, you disturbed my peace, and you have to comply with the statute, prove the elements, but that's not very hard. I'm just not sure whether,
We bought the sound decimal machines at one time.
It
I don't
just
know if we bought them
doesn't
for
work
you or
that
the other.
It's just very
sheriff, but
difficult.
It's
They
Gilbilly
have, it
has
should be
one.
there somewhere.
It takes a scientist to really operate it, because I recorded the military gunfire on 67 across the street. But when a car would drive by, it would be louder on the meter than the gunfire.
So we should have stopped the cars. Based on the law. That's right.
Well, the truth, Mayor, if you got somebody playing loud music, you stand in the back of your yard, take your phone and record it.
I guess,
The judge is gonna say, that's too loud, turn it off, or you're gonna.
basically what you're saying, Tim, if you have by right to open up a business, a restaurant business, and that business includes outdoor music and everything, by right, you can't put a condition on it.
Well, they're putting a condition on it now.
That's what I'm saying.
Which is okay.
But there is a condition.
There's two different conditions. I mean, we're talking about violation of the criminal law, which you have state statute dealing with disturbing the public peace. Then we have an ordinance about noise ordinance, which has a decimal requirement in it. And that's hard to enforce because you'd have to put a decimal meter in every deputy's car. Otherwise, they gotta go get one to come out there by the time they have the
My
music over.
basic question is, why is this any of the planning and zoning department's business?
Well, they're gonna tell a restaurant, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody's gonna open up a club or a
How y'all
restaurant,
operate?
they're gonna say, you can't do this between your conditional use permit, if you will, is you can only play music 2 to 8 or we'll revoke it. That's really what happens. So
To
it's not a very good.
answer Beverly's question, Beverly, the reason that I guess as an elected official, when I represent that area, there are homes close by, and they're concerned about their peace. If someone were to open, and by right, they can open up a restaurant where they are, but I mean, right across the road is homes, okay, and right across the other
Bayou.
side, yeah, right across the little bag, and when I say, I'm talking about a little one, less than the diameter of this room, the size of this room. So there is a concern for peace, having a peaceful night if you're sleeping on weekends and you're trying to sleep at noise, so.
See, I live across the bay from the football field, and on Friday nights, they'll shake my windows. So, I mean, what I'm worried about is having something like this, opening the door for somebody to say, hey, y'all need to stop all that noise.
Actually, the same applies, what you're describing is the people, they own Bay St. Louis. And across the bay, Bay St. Louis, they claim they can hear that, you know where that music is. Of course, they say at distance, it's kind of muffled, but being right across the street. So there's a concern about disturbing their peace. And
This proposal though does have for outdoor music that it can't be heard steadily anyway. If the wind changes and that causes it to be louder, for a moment, they have a reasonable time to turn it down. But the nearest property line is 100 feet away for a resident. So it still is not going to be blaring, but they'll be able to have music more than twice a month.
But your client's okay with this?
That's correct.
and it would be 2 days. At 8 o'clock, they have to shut it down.
Or move inside.
Or move inside.
Okay,
Okay.
we appreciate it. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Have you had discussions with
Motion
those
carried.
people?
Yes, sir,
No, I'm talking about the residents.
yeah, they fully participated in everything. Both sides were involved from the beginning.
Okay.
Just so the board knows, I don't see how law
There's
enforcement
gonna be
can enforce this anymore than they have to.
We can't, there's no way to. The
But it
person
says
would
in
have
there,
to-
it says in the document that they will enforce it. I don't know how they're gonna do that.
The only thing that they can do is, just like Tim said, that the person would have to sign charges for disturbing the family peace, or disturbing peace.
Everybody is aware of that. Both sides have strategies to defend against that. We're hoping that this is ground rules that everybody can live with and it won't be a constant.
Tim, if you have concerns about it being in the zoning ordinance, and there's a question whether that's enforceable, what if the county would pass an ordinance, now which would be applicable to the whole county, that outdoor music can only be heard from 2 days?
What about race cars, Marlon?
Oh, don't start that. That's why this whole problem, that's why Troy has the problem he has, because of those race cars. But I
I'm saying.
don't, would that be,
There are laws,
Accept.
there are laws on the book. Right now, the state has
So we
laws
don't
that
have
deal
to-
with, you
the
don't
city
even
has
need
to
it.
have it,
The
right?
problem is this, Marlon, and he'll tell you, what happens is, the citizen who's upset about the music being played. They're gonna call the sheriff department out here playing loud music, keeping me up, or I can't sleep in the afternoon, whatever their issue is. And the sheriff goes out there, by the time the sheriff deputy gets out there, the music stops because they see the police cars coming up, but you don't hear nothing. So now you go to the neighbors and say, well, look, if they're disturbing your peace, you need to go to file a criminal charge against them. They say, oh, no, I don't want to do that. It'll make them mad. So therein lies the double-edged sword. There are laws that will enforce noise ordinances on the books right now. You just have to be willing to go sign the affidavit to stop it and tell them. And the enforcement of it, the problem is just like I said, by the time the police officer or the deputy gets there, the music's turned down.
there's an assumption, Tim, and Clark is probably more familiar with it than I am now, with the years past. But not only do you have to have a decibel reading up to a certain extent, but it has to be over a period of time. If I'm not mistaken, it has to be, you know, you just go out there and you catch them all of a sudden, but it has to be read at I think it's over a period of time that you have to do it. So what we did, we took a shotgun and killed an ant.
Right. But there are laws on the books. You know, I live next door to Bobby Diesel. I could have called the law anyway.
You won't sign a affidavit?
No, he was my friend. Now, my wife used to get mad at him, but I could tune it out. It didn't bother me.
You give her some earbuds and they have a little, the app on
We're
the
not
phone
going
and it's
on.
ready.
25. All right, let's go.
It's on white noise.
I need to know the motion and second that I did not get it. 24.
Wait a minute, boy. Think Marlon.
I think I seconded it, but that was for discussion. That was
That
for
was not
discussion.
discussion, but I don't have a problem with it. Let's vote on it.
That's fine. 25?
All right.
Did we vote on
Who
it?
made the motion?
There was the
Marlon made the
voted on
motion.
it, but you didn't do a first and a second.
Well, he's made the motion and Connie seconded.
I got it.
Right.
For discussion.
Items 25 through 28 are regular cases before the planning commission, no appeals, and so we've asked you to concur with the recommendations of the planning commission.
Did we vote on that, though, is what I'm asking?
I don't think we made a motion. Did we vote on it?
We didn't vote on it. That's what I'm asking.
We did not vote.
I thought we did. We didn't vote.
Call the question.
Call the question on item 24. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Item 20, was that 25 to
25 through
28?
28 are regular cases.
Regular cases concurrent with the planning commission, with the zoning commission. All, can we get a motion?
Motion.
Second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Order approving payment of claims listed. Be paid on the card account. Second.
Discussion. Second.
Discussion.
No.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Order spread upon the amendments to the list of local state contract for emergency orders issued by the purchase department for the month of July. We have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Recognize the sheriff.
I recognize
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Total 759, 34 misdemeanors, 126 females, 64 that declared state arrest, and 25 federal males.
Thanks, sir. Item 30, the order approving the transfer within the sheriff's budget as on file with the county administrator. Motion. Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I'll skip number 30.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we just voted on
I can see where you're at, it's right on that line.
Split.
Okay, yeah, okay. Item 30, order concurring with the county administrator on the employment as listed and on file with the payroll clerk and personal human resource department.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 34, order approving the local purchase of 35 portable radios for the Sheriff's Office Correction Division in the amount of $68,075 from the Communication International, payable from 001-200-921. Price has been discounted due to the oversupply of radios, and these radios are not part of the state EPL. Motion,
Motion.
Second.
discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. Item 35, order approving the low quote purchase in the amount of $13,000 for Pro One for security cameras at the new Harrison County Law Enforcement Training Academy. Payable from 030-208-921.
Motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. 36, order approving the low quote purchase of $9,896 from Prologic ITS LLC for in-call mounting equipment for the sheriff's office vehicles payable from 001-200-915 and authorizing the county administrator to transfer said funds.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 37, order approving low quote of Brent DK's construction in the amount of $74,000 for the renovation of the Criminal Investigation Division at the Harrison County Adult Detention Center, payable from 001-200-902, and authorizing the county administrator to transfer funds.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. Order approving the grant agreement for fiscal year 23 between the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety and the Harrison County Board of Supervisors, Harrison County Sheriff's Office for grant number OP 2023 OP 1241 402 occupant protection fiscal year 23. The amount of $88,493 and authorizing the board president to execute the same.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. 39, order acknowledging the bid of Diversified Telecommunications Solutions LLC in amount of $209,450 in the lowest and best reverse auction bid received on July 13, 2022 for the dispatch center facility renovation and accepting Diversified Telecommunications Solutions LLC lower than bid price offered on August 2nd, 2022 in the amount of $152,826.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion.
All the discussion is, all this change will fit into the proposed radio system,
Yes.
what they call
Yeah.
it. I mean,
P25, well, it's,
yeah,
what they're doing here, what we're doing here is taking everything out of dispatch, completely redoing dispatch, and we're gonna take, I think we have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we got about 9 consoles in there now, we're gonna reduce it down to 5. And then, when we do this, they're gonna move to Biloxi and run out of Biloxi Communications, so we can do this. But dispatch hadn't been done in 20 years.
Yeah.
We're gonna-
so all what you're purchasing will fit with
Yes.
this new proposed
Yeah.
system coming in.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. 40, order approving mileage reimbursement for in-county travel for the following employees.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. 41, order authorizing disposal of assets for a tax list and authorizing the inventory clerk.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Order approving payment of the following claims.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 43, resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Harrison County, Mississippi, determining the necessity for and invoking the authority granted to the county by the legislature with respect to tax increment financing as set forth in Chapter 45 of Title 21 Mississippi Code of 1972 as amended, determining that the Minge Avenue and I-10 project is a project eligible for tax increments financed under the law of the state, that a public hearing be conducted on September 6, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. at the Harrison County Courthouse, Harrison County Gulfport Courthouse, in connection with tax increments financing plan and for the related purpose.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
We do have a number of people here that we want to recognize, Troy and Wiseman and who else too? Troy's our attorney, Mr. Wiseman is Becky's attorney representative. right?
They're working on the TIF.
Whoever he is, he's our attorney.
I don't know who I am today.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet y'all.
Thank y'all for coming.
Steve Hood's here.
Steve Hood.
We don't know Steve.
He goes with that introduction.
We appreciate you and
Appreciate
glad
that.
you're coming.
Thank y'all very much. We're
My
excited
daughter
to
can quit spending her money in Alabama now.
My wife dropped quite a sum in Mobile a couple of weeks ago. And just so the board knows, Troy and I met with the West Harrison County Water and Sewer District Attorney and Representative last week, so we're moving in that direction too.
There should be no problem with water and sewer there.
There should not be.
None.
Just Virgil, just a problem with Virgil.
I can overcome that problem.
No, Virgil's great, he's funny. Troy got the meeting for the first time.
Oh, God.
That first time?
Oh, that was the first
Wonder
time.
they didn't, it's the wonder they didn't back out.
I didn't know who it was at first.
We do appreciate that.
funny.
Do you have anything you'd like to comment on, or?
No, other than I'll be back the 6th, and always, if y'all have any questions, feel free to call me, and Tim knows how to get in touch with me.
Okay, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
And welcome to
Thank you,
town. Welcome to the
Just-
county.
just-
You're not
Yes,
going to town.
Just an aside, Kim, and I've talked to Steve too, we're pretty close to the other thing in reference to the bond to build a highway, to
Yes.
redo the highway.
Yes. This is part of that going forward. This TIF includes a RETA. You're talking
TIF
about.
doesn't have anything to do with the highway.
The bond.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the bond to redo the Interstate 10 for this.
Yes,
$15 million.
they are connected in this way.
It's all part of the same project.
Yeah.
So
In that respect, yes.
even the bond is connected to the TIF.
Well, there's two, there's a TIF, the TIF plan includes a RETA,
That's right.
and RETA
Gotcha.
is where the bonds will
Okay.
be connected to the
Gotcha.
It's
project.
all part of the
Okay.
same big
It's
project.
all part of it, good deal.
That's right, so it's kind of combined a
So
little bit.
it's connected.
Is the state going to participate? in
I'll
it?
let you count.
They're getting a ton of tax money off of it.
I wouldn't count.
They said they don't have any money.
We've done been through all that.
We really appreciate y'all including it.
We've been through all that.
Thank y'all
Really?
Okay,
They won't be
appreciate
ready?
With the state.
Okay, yeah, we got the roll.
Yeah.
Order for the resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Harrison County, Mississippi, declaring the intention of Harrison County, Mississippi to act jointly with the city of Developmental, Mississippi, to issue tax increment financing bonds of said city to finance the cost of installing and constructing certain infrastructure improvements in connection with the development of the Blue Water Beach and related improvements within said county in accordance with the authority granted to municipalities by the legislature with respect to tax increment financing as set forth in chapter 45 of Title 21 Mississippi Code 1972 as amended.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Of course,
All in favor?
this is the project,
Right.
I-10, yeah, Sports Illustrated.
Right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Someone wants to say something?
I don't have to. I'm Christina Sugg on behalf of Gross and Associates. I know Chris has met with some of y'all. We've had conversations with them.
If y'all have any
Just want to say
questions,
thank you
just
for your support, and I'm here if you have questions.
Okay, thank you. 45, order acknowledging receipt of an approved reallocation for the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. This was on the 6/13/22 agenda. Closed Tidelands Grant Project, fiscal year 9 M6 626 12 Sand Beach washout cleanup with $5,000 in fiscal year 2017. P6 2603 Long Beach Gateway with 37,500. Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 45, order designating the Board of Supervisors, County Administrator, Purchase Clerk, Chancery Clerk, and any department head as needed as board representatives to receive bids as listed below.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Order 7, order approving memorandum of understanding between the city of Biloxi and Harrison County regarding expansion of the Coomer Street boat ramp and related parking facility.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
I have a 2 5-gallon bucket of sand in my office. Is this supposed to be a fat sand project? There's a wet bucket and a dry bucket, if y'all care to see it.
Is it heavy?
That's why it's sitting in there, and I didn't drag it in.
We
It's okay to
can't,
me.
we can't wait.
Y'all
You can
go-
show it to
you
the
sure
press
you go in
afterwards.
there?
You want us to go look at sand in a bucket?
Yeah, come on, go look at
I
it.
can't wait.
We can't,
It's fat sand, not
Fat
skinny
sand.
sand, fat sand. We have skinny sand already.
Me and Fat Sam have something in common.
item 48, order adjudicating the employment of Tim C. Holloman and Boyce Holloman and Associates to represent Harrison County and the Harrison County Board of Supervisors in litigation matters of Angel Militant versus Harrison County. Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Order authorizing the advertisement for Marlin Ladner Boulevard and Long Beach project.
Motion.
Second.
That
Yeah,
also
whatever.
includes the lifestyle statute. I want y'all to know that what y'all paying.
A shrine? Are you building a shrine, Mark?
Bronze.
Is shrine,
Huh?
Place for
Yeah.
Neil and all that? Okay.
No, I can't mix.
Just
religion.
got
Okay.
It all needs to get out.
You didn't want to go that far.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 50 order adjudicating.
You already did 51.
Oh, we did 50, that's right. 51 order adjudicating and authorizing expenditure that's listed as necessary to advertise and bring to favorable notice the opportunities, possibilities, and resources of Harrison County, Mississippi, including the county's logo being displayed along with link displayed to the Harrison County online.
God bless you.
Motion.
Motion, but I think we already did
You
it.
did.
Y'all did one.
You did, yeah, okay.
So I'll make a motion to do A, B, C, D, and F.
Okay, second.
What are we voting on?
Advertise.
Yeah.
All in favor? All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. And 52, order approving the third public hearing regarding redistricting for Harrison County, Mississippi, to be held in the boardroom on August of the Gulfport Courthouse, August 16, 2022 at 6 p.m. Second discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 23, we have a 1:30 hearing. So we will. Come back at 1:30.
Okay, sorry, motion to recess to 1:30.
Second. Get a second.
Second.
All in favor of that motion, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Julie, it's good to see you.